Hey, what's up guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm doing a counter fairy deck. Before we start, I have a couple of questions for you guys. Do you like saying no to your opponent? Do you like it when your opponent can't play Yu-Gi-Oh? Do you like setting 5 and passing? Well, if you said yes to more than one of those questions, then this deck might be for you. So basically what this deck does is it sets a whole bunch of counter traps and maybe summons one monster to be able to stop your opponent from doing anything at all, essentially, by setting all sorts of counter traps that says no to everything that they do, which is really fun for you and really bad for them. So without further ado, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad. Definitely check out the Patreon, the Ko-Fi down in the description below, and let's get straight on this. And this deck even just got a new Link monster. So first off, we're going to be playing just a single copy of the Sacred Air Knight Parashaft. This card is a really good one of in the deck. I probably would never play it at more than one because it can kind of break a little bit. I used to play this card at 2, but I really realized as the deck went on, it's more of a Ties of the Brethren style deck with a bunch of counter traps in it. So you really only need one of it. And it's searchable. And if you activate a counter trap card, or if you negate the activation of a spell trap or monster effect, then you can manage 2 other fairy monsters from your hand or field or graveyard. And then special summon this card from your graveyard if it was there, or from your hand if it was not. And if this card attacks a defense position monster, you inflict piercing damage. And when it inflicts damage to your opponent, you can add a Parashaft card or a counter trap from your deck to your hand. Can you say search Solemn Judgment? Yes, please. Then we play 3 copies of the fan favorite Bountiful Artemis. So Bountiful Artemis' effect is that each time a counter trap is activated, you immediately draw 1 card. That is not once per turn. Every time it activates, you draw a card. Then we play 3 copies of Guardian Ariadne. Guardian Ariadne basically does the Pendulum Scale is the most important effect of this card, that it applies this effect and makes the whole deck work. If it's in your Pendulum Zone, then you do not have to pay life points to activate counter traps, and you don't have to discard cards to activate the counter traps. So essentially, Solemn Judgment says, I'm free. Solemn Strike says, I'm free. Like, this card is absolutely crazy to play in this deck, and this card is a 3-of through and through. You have to play this card at 3. So for the 1-ofs that we're going to be playing, we're going to be playing a single copy of Power Angel Valkyrie. This basically does, if you negate the activation of a spell or trap or monster effect, you get to add a light fairy from your deck to your hand, which if you don't already have Guardian Ariadne, it's going to be Guardian Ariadne. 1 copy of Menvra, the Scholar of the Sky. This card is really cool because each time a counter trap is activated, immediately after it resolves, it gains 500 attack. And if the Sanctuary in the Sky is on the field, you get to add a counter trap with a different name from the one that you activated to your hand. I play a single copy of Sage of the Sky. Sage of the Sky is really good as a 1-of 2. It's basically a copy of for Ties of the Brethren. Each time a counter trap is activated, you gain 1,000 life points. And if you have the Sanctuary and the Guy on the field, you can destroy a monster or destroy a card your opponent controls. So it just hits them again for, activating stuff. I play a single copy of Herald of the Heavens. You discard this card and you get to add a Sanctuary in the Sky from your deck to your hand. I play 2 copies of Honest as well because everything just about that we play is light. So the Honest really helps out. And then I play a 3-of Tech card that I play in this deck that you guys are probably never going to guess. Definitely comment down below. It is a monster that works very well with this deck, and the only hint I'm going to give you is it's not a light monster. That's the only hint you get. So definitely comment down below, tell me what you think it is, and we're going to reveal it in 3, 2, 1. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, guys, and hit that bell. So here we go. So the 3-of that I play in here is 3 copies of Vandeglion, the Dark Dragon Lord. Okay, you guys are going to look at me and go, huh? What are you doing with that card? So basically what this card does is if you activate a counter trap card you control, negates the activation of an opponent's cards or effects, you can instantly special summon this card from your hand and then activate the appropriate effect based on the type of card that was negated. If you negate a spell, you inflict 1,500 points of damage to your opponent. If you negate a trap, which I give you a hint, never happens, you select and destroy 1 card your opponent controls. Not that big of a deal. But if you negate an effect monster's effect, you get to select a monster in your graveyard and special summon it. This card is Walking Monster Reborn on a 28-beat stick. This card is absolutely crazy to be able to play in this deck. It is such a good card. And it's so cool to be able to play Vandeglion in a deck. This card is so cool for this deck. I wish it would have been a counter fairy, but it being a dark card is just cool. It's kind of like the Dark Side of Grace, if you will. But it's a really, really cool card to play in here to be able to just special summon a 28 body that can swing, and inflict 1,500 points of damage to your opponent. So that's my little 3-of cool tech. I thought it was kind of neat to be able to play him. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So then we're going to be playing a single copy of Double or Nothing because What's really funny is if your opponent tries to negate your double or nothing, you just Solemn Judgment, Solemn Strike, Solemn Warning, Divine Punishment, whatever, Rebirth of the Parashaft, whatever you want to do with your counter trap, you just stop them and you just swing at them for 10,000. Like, that's essentially what you do with double or nothing in this deck. You negate everything to get through with the double or nothing. And the majority of the deck, if you noticed, is level 4 monsters, and we play Ties of the Brethren. So if you go first and you draw Ties of the Brethren and a fairy monster, you're going to punch through with double or nothing the next turn, because you're going to negate so much stuff that it's going to either make them lose the will to live, or they're going to get a monster on the field and then pass, and then they're like, well, crap, I can't win. We play a single copy of the Sanctuary in the Sky, which basically is here to activate some of our card effects. And during the battle phase, your fairy monsters battle, you take 0 damage from them battling. Then we play 3 copies of Ties of the Brethren. The Ties of the Brethren really helps out, because if you summon a fairy monster, you can pay 2,000, and then special summon 2 of your different fairy monsters from your deck. So, like, for instance, what I normally do is if I have in my hand, let's just say best case scenario, you have a Bountiful Artemis in your hand, and you normal summon that, target this, pay the 2,000, and then special summon from your deck an Honest, so they can't attack into you, and a Power Angel, because then if you negate something with the Power Angel, you get to draw a card, and then you can chain block this to be able to add your Guardian Ariadne, so you stop having to pay life points and stuff for your other cards, which is really cool. And then the Honest can return to your hand and then make it so they can't beat over this or the Power Angel, for instance, or whatever you particularly need. Like, if you need one of the other fairies, you can also special summon them. Then for the last 3 spells, we play 3 copies of the Sanctuary, Sanctum of Parashaft. This card's really cool because it becomes Sanctuary in the Sky while on the field, and it makes all your fairy monsters gain 300 attack. And then set spell and traps cannot be targeted or destroyed by an opponent's card effects. So basically, they can't even hit your back row, which is funny. And then once per turn, you can target a total number of 3 fairies or counter traps with different names in your graveyard and place them on top of your deck in any order. So I can just keep activating Solemn Judgment over and over and over and over every single turn. Yes, please. I think so. So that's it for the spells, guys. Now let's get into the real fun part, the counter traps. Because we don't play anything but counter traps. So here we go. So we're going to be playing a single copy of Divine Punishment. I play this card because it's searchable with some of the other cards, and you want to play a couple of different names in the extra or in the main deck, because you can search different ones with the, I believe it was the Scholar searches it. Then basically what this does is when you have Sanctuary on the Sky on the field, you can negate a spell, trap, or monster effect. And if you do, destroy it, which is really cool. Drastic Drop-Off we play as a 1-of, because when your opponent adds a cards from their deck to their hand, including by drawing them, they must discard one of the cards that they added, which can be really, a problem for them. We play 2 copies of Ultimate Providence. When a spell trap or monster effect is activated, you can discard the same type of card, negate the activation if you do destroy that card. This card's really good in this deck. Basically, if they activate a monster, you just discard a monster. If they activate a spell, you just discard a spell. But if you have Guardian Ariadne on the field, you don't have to discard anything, and you just negate the monster, spell, or trap. This says no to any one card. 3 copies of Rebirth of the Parashaft. I really like this card. I don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of crap unless you have Guardian Ariadne, because when a spell trap or monster effect is activated, you can reveal a counter trap in your hand, discard a card, and pay 1,000 life points. It has 3 activation costs if you don't have Guardian Ariadne, but they're not none of them are really terrible, because you reveal the counter trap, you're going to have the counter trap in the hand always. You discard a card, so you could discard the same one that you revealed, and then you pay 1,000 life points, and then negate the activation if you shuffle the card into the deck. Then you get to special summon a Parashaft from your extra deck or main deck, which could be either one of these, or your main deck Parashaft, which is this big guy as well. So like these 3 are your targets right here that you can special summon off of this. Now, you can play the other ones, but they're not very good. So I just play those 3 as my targets for the Rebirth of the Parashaft, and they come out for free. Then we play the Solemn Brigade, which is the funniest thing. I never thought I would see a deck that would play all of these, but we're playing 3 copies of Solemn Strike, that basically when an opponent's monster is special summoned, or if a monster effect is activated, you pay 1,500 life points and then negate the activation and destroy it. We play 3 copies of Solemn Warning, because Warning's at 3. And that's really funny. when a monster would be summoned, or when a spell or trap or monster effect is activated that includes the effect of special summoning a monster, you can pay 2,000 life points to negate the activation and destroy that card. And then we play 3 copies of Solemn Judgment, because why not? Because we want to say no to everything. The misery that your opponent has when you play this deck is top notch. I just will say. The salt is of the finest grade. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Yeah, that's real scary right there. 9 Solemn cards in one deck. Somebody's not going to have a good time. So that's it for the main deck. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're playing a single copy of Celestial Night Lord Parashaft, which is the new Link monster for the Parashaft monsters. But basically what this card does is you can discard a card to add a Sanctuary in the Sky, or one card that specifically lists Sanctuary in the Sky from your deck to your hand. Or if the Sanctuary in the Sky is on your field, you can add a Fairy monster instead. And if a Fairy monster you control is sent to the graveyard, you can banish one Fairy monster from your graveyard, special summon one monster from your hand that has a higher level than the banished one. So basically, if you have the big guy in your hand, the big Parashaft in your hand, and a fairy is destroyed by battle, you can get him out basically for free by banishing a fairy from your graveyard, which is pretty cool. One copy of Avenging Knight Parashaft. Avenging Knight Parashaft inflicts piercing damage, and it can change the battle position of an opponent's monster, which is pretty cool. One copy of Herald of Mirage Light. Herald of Mirage Light is pretty neat too, because when a spell trap or monster effect is activated, you can send a fairy monster from your hand to the graveyard, negate the activation if you destroy it. And if this card in your possession is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can add 2 ritual monsters from your deck to your hand, which we're never going to do that. But the really cool effect about it is that you can activate a spell trap or monster effect to activate. You can send a fairy from your hand to the graveyard and negate the activation. We play a single copy of Boral Sword to help us OTK. It is ridiculously easy to put those monsters on field to get it. Boral Sword to take our opponent's monsters, because we want to add a little bit more salt on top of that. One copy of Nightmare Phoenix, because you can pop spells with it, because sometimes you might need to pop a particular spell instead of walking into it, but sometimes it doesn't matter because we play Solemn Judgment at 3, and it's searchable. 2 copies of Hippo Shenanigans, because we might need a bigger fairy. And then we play the Utopia package, which is Utopia Double and Utopia, which basically makes a 10,000 attack point swing that the entire deck basically protects this to go through. Like, you Solemn Judgment me when I try and do this, or you try and do anything, and I'm just going to Solemn Judgment you while I'm trying to get him out on the field and swing at you in the face. So every single turn, I'm going to hit you with this card, and it's just I'm going to win. Like, there's no way I'm not going to win with this card. One copy of Baguska. Baguska just stalls out if we need to. Honor Arc just takes our opponent's monsters if we need to. Exciton Knight I rarely go into, because usually I have an established field, but if I'm in a real bad state, I'll go into Exciton Knight if I can or need to. One copy of Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller is good too, because basically it stops your opponent from doing stuff in the graveyard. And then number 60, in case we need to double the attack point of a monster on the field, which can happen sometimes, which is really funny. And really works. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a really cool, really fun deck for you, and it's really not fun at all to play against, because it says no to everything under the sky. Under the Sanctuary in the Sky, excuse me. So it says no to everything under the Sanctuary in the Sky. So that's really fun. It's a super fun deck, and it's really cool to be able to play Parashaft, because this card used to be really meta. The Air Knight Parashaft used to be really meta, and then he grew up, and he's not little anymore. He's not a 1900 beat stick that does piercing and lets you draw a card. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell on there so you become part of my notification squad. Definitely check out the Patreon and the Ko-Fi down in the description below. Tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys.